Hi and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave and this is episode 1486B, and today's date is January 31st, 2018, and the title of the episode is Deep State Strikes Back and Sends a Clear Message. What's next? Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, today we saw a dump truck hit into an Amtrak train, and it looks like the deep state was sending a message because this train was carrying Republicans off to a retreat. And it's just very interesting that this all just happened as the memo is going to be released. And we're going to be talking about that a little bit later in this report. But let's start off with McCabe here, the former FBI director. And it looks like the internal watchdog from the Justice Department has been investigating former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe for apparently sitting on emails obtained from Anthony Weiner's laptop. Now, the Department of Justice Inspector General Michael Horowitz wants to know why McCabe allegedly took little to no action for approximately 3 weeks on the trove of emails sent by Hillary's top aide, Huma Abedin, Weiner's wife, which were discovered during an unrelated investigation into Weiner's sexting with an underage girl. And we can see that this story with McCabe gets deeper and deeper and deeper. And of course, it's tied to Clinton. It's tied to many different things. We already see that the FBI director, he is basically looking at this memo, and he's reporting that he has grave concerns over the accuracy of the House Intel Committee's memo describing the FISA abuses. Now, of course, what is happening at this point, he's covering for the FBI, and he's already putting the word out there that this memo is not what it really seems because it's not accurate at all. Now, the corporate media, they're going to run with this. When the memo is eventually released, they're going to say this is not accurate. We don't have all the information. A lot of it's made up, and they're going to downplay it. And they're not going to stay on it too long. They're probably going to drop it very, very quickly and try to pretend it doesn't exist. Now, what's going to happen here is that more and more information is going to be coming out about the FISA memo, and they will not be able to ignore it for long because we're going to see other information. This is just the beginning of what they're going to start to release. And the deep state, the cabal, they know this. They know there's more on the way. And we can see already that things are really getting kind of weird out there because they're using propaganda like there's no tomorrow. I mean, they're saying there's a second Trump dossier, which just all of a sudden appeared one day after the FISA memo vote, which is unbelievable because what they're doing right now is they're using a lot of propaganda. Now, the second dossier was authored by Cody Shearer, a former journalist and political activist for the Clinton White House in the 90s. According to The Guardian, it confirms Steele's claim that Trump was compromised by the Russian intelligence in 2013. So this person created a second dossier confirming the first one to let everyone know it's real. I mean, think about this for a second. Now, Cody Shearer cites an unnamed source within the Russian security services. Again, there's no facts here. There's no real information. They're citing nothing. And they're saying this dossier that cites absolutely nothing that he wrote up confirms the already fake one. Think about what they're doing here. Now, let's see some real evidence. Let's see some real facts. Do they have any of that? No, they don't. They have nothing like this. So what do they use? They use propaganda. That's what we're seeing right now. We're seeing all this propaganda come out to distract everyone from what is really happening. What's really happening is the deep state is in big trouble. The deep state knows this. The deep state, well, their backs are against the wall. Everything that they planned on, everything that they've done is falling apart. They wanted to control the Middle East. They wanted war. They wanted North Korea and South Korea to be separate and apart. But instead, we see South Korean skiers, they're going to be heading to North Korea for a joint pre-Olympic training session. It's still on. They're not stopping this. We see that they're pushing the idea that Russia well, they're crazy. They want war, and they released their video of a Russian fighter buzzing a U.S. spy plane. Now, remember the U.S. Navy P-3 Orion surveillance plane? Well, that was in the Black Sea heading towards Russia. Any country will send up a jet to intercept. And what they did was, they did this on purpose. They wanted the jet to intercept. They wanted to catch it on video to show that, look how it flew next to the spy plane that was heading towards Russia. This is just unsafe. You see, Russia, they don't care. They don't care what they do, by their borders when a spy plane is coming towards them. And they're trying to push this like there's a problem here. And they're saying, the Su-27 did a 15-degree roll and they created turbulence for the spy plane. I mean, think about what they're saying here. It's all about propaganda. It's all about convincing you that there's a problem here. And there really isn't. Russia was just going to see what was headed towards their borders. That's it. Nothing else. Just like the U.S. would do. If there was a spy plane heading towards New York, California, Florida, any of the areas, Texas, the United States would send up jets to intercept to see what this was. Absolutely. No questions asked. Iran is saying, listen, we're not going to be leaving Syria unless the Syrian government tells us to leave. We were invited in by the Syrian government. The United States was not. The coalition forces were not. And if they want us to leave, they will let us know, and we will leave. Now, everyone keeps making the argument that Iran is in there, their fighters are in there. They were invited in, just like the Russians. The countries that aren't supposed to be in there are the coalition forces, the U.S., Israel, and the rest. They weren't invited in. They invaded a country. Now, Lavrov was out in Sochi, and they made the decision to establish a constitutional committee, and this is going along with the UN Resolution 2254. The work of this new structure, the Constitutional Committee to prepare the Syrian Constitution, will be organized in Geneva. Now, what's very interesting about all of this, as the individuals left Sochi and these people were returning back to their homes, those people that were from Syria landed at the Damascus International Airport, and as they were landing, all of a sudden, rockets were fired at them. Now, we can see that this was done specifically. They don't want the peace to go forward, and they were trying to hit that plane to try to, create some type of problem where the peace talks couldn't go forward. But of course, it didn't work. Now, what's very interesting is that Turkey invaded Syria going into the Afrin area because of the Kurds, because of what has been going on there where the cabal was building a force to go onto the border. Turkey said no way. They came into Syria to push them back. The Kurds said, listen, we need Damascus help. We need their help. We're part of Syria. They should be defending Syria with us. And this was part of the plan. We also see that now it's been about 10 days, and the operation is called Operation Olive Branch, which means peace. The Afrin offensive, well, it looks like they allowed the Syrian army to make substantial progress in both Idlib and Syria, which is very interesting, how the Syrian army now is making progress in this area as Turkey is pushing their agenda in Afrin. I think this was all planned, and this was being done to help the Syrian army and hopefully get the cabal out of Syria. This was the whole plan, and I think it is working. Even though the corporate media is saying it isn't, it looks like, from all intents and purposes, that this is actually working right now. We also see that the deep state, well, they have already sent a message. Now, we see there was an Amtrak train. They were carrying Republican lawmakers, and they were going to an area where they were going to meet, like a retreat area. And we can see there was a dump truck that crashed into the train. Now, this was a chartered train. This wasn't like a public train where everyone was getting on and there was many different stops. This was a chartered train carrying dozens of Republican lawmakers to a Republican retreat in West Virginia. And out of nowhere, a dump truck, came in contact with this train. Now, Minnesota Rep. Jason Lewis, who represents Minnesota's suburban 2nd District, it looks like he was injured and he was hospitalized. We know that the individual in the truck died. Now, what's very interesting is that this was a secure area for this chartered train. All the roads were closed for security reasons. How did the dump truck get into this area? And the dump truck it didn't see the flashing red signals that a train was coming. And when you look at the train, it looks like the truck rammed into the train to derail it. And this was the attempt it made. Now, what we're looking at right now possibly is a false flag by the deep state sending a message to all these individuals: stop what you're doing. I mean, Q did say there was going to be many different false flag attempts, and I think this is one of them. I don't think this is the big one. I think they're sending a message saying, do not release the memo. Hasn't been released yet. Don't go any further with the investigations. Now, what's very interesting is that CNN is reporting that the Pentagon conducted 2 tests of the U.S. missile defense system, and they're saying that it failed to intercept a missile. Now, think back. When Obama was president, they did a test, and they said it was completely successful. Intercepted the missile, no problems, everything was fantastic. Now, they're saying there were 2 tests, and we couldn't intercept a missile. Now, back then, I reported that they knew the trajectory, they knew the type of missile, they knew everything. They were able to plot the course, and they were able to intercept the missile. And in real life, you're not going to know everything about this missile that is headed our way. Today, they're broadcasting and letting everyone know that we can't stop a missile approaching the United States. Think about the message that they're putting out there. They're saying that the United States doesn't have the ability, through 2 tests, to stop an incoming missile. And they're saying that if North Korea, now of course they're making the entire production of North Korea, they're very close to a ballistic missile that can reach the United States. Most likely they already have it, and they're getting ready to use it. Now, it doesn't make sense why they would use it, because North Korea, South Korea, they're working together. They're going to the Olympics together. The Olympics are going to be held very, very soon. But they're trying to make the case that that's where this missile is going to be coming from. Now, like I said, this dump truck that hit this train, I think, was just a message. A false flag, a message. They're going to make it look like it was an accident, but the message was sent. I do believe that if this memo is released, of course they're going to try to play it down. They're going to push more propaganda. Most likely it's not going to work. And remember what Q said, if propaganda fails, we're going to have an event from hell, a major false flag. If the propaganda does not convince the public that the FISA memo is inaccurate, it's meaningless, it makes no sense, nothing to see here, people, move along. If all of this fails and more information comes out and their propaganda trying to convince the public all fails, guess what? They're going to push another false flag. Now, what do we have coming up? We talked about the Super Bowl, which is coming up very soon, Sunday. We talked about the Hawaii Missile Alert System. We're talking about how they're saying the United States cannot intercept a missile. Now, these are the things that we've been talking about. There could be other things that we don't even know about, where they might try something, just like this train. There might be a place or time where Trump and maybe other party members are all together, and there might be some type of Islamic State chemical weapons attack someplace where they say, oh, he's in Palm Beach, he's watching the Super Bowl, and the Islamic State went after him. We don't know. I mean, this could be a possibility. And they might try to get him maybe with sarin gas or something like that. It doesn't matter if they hurt many, many people in this area. It makes no difference to them. It could be a cyber attack, along with physical attacks, like a dirty nuke or something like that. Anything where they can distract everyone from what is really going on. It has to be big. It can't be something that's small. But I think we are seeing the first part of it. And if those individuals who are taking down the deep state, if they don't acknowledge the message and stop what they're doing, and they continue on with releasing more of this information like the FISA memo and a lot of other things, the deep state then is going to resort to a much bigger false flag. And I think the Trump administration is getting prepared for this. They know that something big is going to happen. Q already mentioned it. And they know if the propaganda fails, yes, it will happen. It's a sure thing. And I see already that we don't know where it's going to be. Maybe they do. But we know from all the indicators that something is headed our way. And why do we want to know this? Why do we keep mentioning this? The reason we continually mention this is because when they do something, we've already looked at it, analyzed it, and said this is where they're headed, so we can expect something like this. If we're expecting something to happen like this, it just didn't happen out of the blue. It's not terrorists. It's not anything like that. It was created by them. That's why we put it out there. That's why we say, listen, eyes open, everyone listening, make sure we understand what's happening, because we're expecting the deep state, the cabal, to do something. And when they do it, we've been talking about why they're doing it, when they're going to do it, and maybe how they're going to do it. And we pick out certain locations so we understand that this is where they're going to hit. Now, of course, they're going to make it seem like it's North Korea. They're going to make it seem like maybe it's the Islamic State or maybe even Russia. Who knows where they're going to say who it is. But we can see right now, maybe they'll even say it's a person that's unhappy with Trump. We don't know. But we do know, because we've been discussing it, we do know that they're going to attempt something. We do know that they're becoming this desperate. And we should expect something to happen. And then we have to rip it apart and say, yes, this is how they did it. This is why they did it. These things don't make sense. So expect something to happen. I would expect something to happen from now until probably March, around this time frame. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.